Hey everyone, Charlie here. Hope you're all doing well. This morning we are in Takefu City for R1 Cuppa. If you've never seen the show before, basically just walk around wherever I'm in Japan, talking about what's ever on my mind, showing you different parts of Japan for the duration of one cup or bottle of something. As I said, today we are in Takefu City. Unofficially, well, officially now it's just part of Greater Echizen City, though it's often still referred to just simply as Takefu. And this is just about half an hour, 40-minute train ride from Fukui City here in Fukui Prefecture. And I don't think we've ever done a one cuppa in this city before, though I've been here a couple times for summer festivals and things like that, and to visit assorted historical sites. One thing I want to point out, I don't normally talk about the drink we're actually drinking, but this is pakchi and lemonade. Cilantro and lemonade. And I like both of those things separately, but I have to say, so far I'm not sure whether or not I like them together. Really interesting drink. It's growing on me though, we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. So, Takefu here. As I said, Takefu is part of Greater Echizen City. Echizen meaning the beginning of Koshi. And way back in the day, before the current demarcation of prefectures. Ooh, this is a cool, like, old house that is just overgrown with vines and dilapidated. I love that look. I love that look. Don't go inside, there might be a clicker. Anybody get that reference? Let me know down in the comments down below. But before the current demarcation of prefectures, the 47 prefectures now, there were of course different demarcations, many times a lot larger in olden times, but the area encompassing Hokuriku, Fukui, Fukui, Ishikawa, places in this area were formerly known as Koshi, and the seat of that prefecture was in this area. And so Echizen, meaning the beginning of Koshi, makes sense. But today, for all of you who are interested in history, this is the one cuppa for you, because not only does Takefu and Echizen have that little bit of history around, here's a random, like, ryokan. Random pink ryokan here. Never stayed there before. I just found it funny that it's here of all places, but I guess there's always people who need a place to stay in different places. But there is a lot of history of both economic, national, and local, like, historical importance that stems from this place. And it's interesting because Echizen, Takefu, this place Takefu, the only way that it really promotes itself is as a former home of Murasaki Shikibu, who is the author of the Tale of Genji. And supposedly this place was very sort of influential and important for her in shaping who she was and what she wrote and things like that. So, but as I say, that's the only thing that's really sort of advertised about this place. That and something called vogel rice, which is omurice with a piece of tonkatsu on top of it that is then slathered in sauce. It's delicious, it's really filling, but ooh, that'll let out a pound or two real quick. But as far as the history goes, most of the important history of this area has to do with crafts and crafting. Now, if you're into Japanese stationery or Japanese art or anything like that, chances are you've seen washi paper, right? That Japanese style well, washi's in the name, Japanese style's in the name, but you know, that sort of not brittle, but almost brittle, very soft kind of paper that is, well, very, very Japanese, I suppose. And almost all of it comes from here. For a millennium and like a half, this area has been making, it's more like a third, this area has been famous for making paper. So much so that there is an Echizen paper village here where you can go and watch it made and make your own paper and all that sort of stuff. And so that's really important. Economically here, there are a number of artists who have used this paper to make things like dresses, for example, and that gets us a lot of recognition here in Fukui. Other things we talked about before, I've showed you like the... This is annoying. I need to get past this building right quick. Oh, it's over here. Sorry for the noise, guys. But I've talked about the lacquerware village before and things like that. Lacquerware being, again, something that is the type of lacquerware produced here is particular to Fukui. The type of lacquer used. This is an interesting shrine because the side here is made of corrugated metal as opposed to being fully wooden, which is sort of interesting, I suppose. And so those are the ceramics and the paper are two really big things as far as crafts goes, but probably, arguably the most famous. Okay, I think I actually, 10 minutes later, I officially kind of like this cilantro lemonade thing. So of course those two things are very famous for the area and they generate a lot of revenue for the area. But probably the biggest deal is our Echizen knives. Oh, there's just this cat hanging out in a window. It's like looking around at the world. Hey there, you little ginge. Ah, lovely, lovely. I'll show him to you. As you can see, he's just sort of chilling up in this window. Nyan-chan. Hello. Cute. I love cats. This is part of the Chiba Hokuriku Nature Trail, apparently. That's really cool. Neato. Neato. Beautiful place. But as I say, the most important trade to the area, as far as crafts are concerned, are Echizen knives. And what's really interesting is I wasn't fully aware. I knew that there was kind of a lengthy history to it, but I was doing some research on the train ride here, and apparently 7 centuries ago, putting the origins of the craft towards the tail end of the Kamakura period or the beginning of the Muromachi period, a sword maker by the name of Chizuru Kuniyasu came up to the Echizen area here in search of the perfect source of water to make better blades. And at the time, of course, the 14th century or so, blades were still very, very important for obvious reasons, or for what I hope are obvious reasons. And this shop is just called Hime. Oh, it's a snack. It's a snack bar, of course it is. Well, it says Hime on it, but no, it's actually called Kike. I guess we'll walk past it once this car goes by. And so as the story goes, this fellow, this Chizuru Kuniyasu fellow, this is just like a strip of izakaya and snack bars. Never been to this area before. I'd actually like to come check out this this snack bar. Or not, maybe that's a Freudian slip, but what I meant to say was the izakaya. Konnichiwa. But anyhow, just comes here to learn how to make these blades, and here we are 7 centuries later, and oh, bikurishita. Big ol' golden retriever who takes one bark and then looks at you and is like, I'm too old for this. Too old for this. This is Tsuji shot. Tsuji, that character, if you look at it, of course it looks like, that first character looks like meat skewered on a stick, which is exactly what Tsuji is. Gyu Tsuji. Also sometimes refers to the type of beef that is usually placed on those skewers. But anyhow, as always, I'm really digressing here. And so this place now internationally, and of course by extension nationally famous for its blades, which if you order them, you're looking at a wait time of a year to 2 years usually. But what's cool is that you can, twice a year they have a program here where you can go and actually, they'll teach you how to make, let's see, is this thing on? I gotta be careful today because the battery is kind of acting wonky, so I don't want it to cut out suddenly on you guys, so maybe we'll have a shorter one today. You can come here twice a year for about 25,000 yen, or about 200 and something bucks a go, and you can make a blade. The first time you make like a paring knife or a small cooking knife, and then the next time you can actually get into some advanced stuff. So I'm thinking about it, but it's a matter of timing and all that stuff. But as a result of all these things we've talked about so far, this tiny, not super tiny, it's a small city of 80,000. You know, it's like this epicenter of all these traditional important crafts that sort of pulls in a ton of money for the local economy. Just because fate and chance and whatever else sort of decided that artisans would start these amazing things here and then carry them on for centuries. Konnichiwa. For centuries and centuries. Now, of course, I don't know if you can hear the bells, but look at cherry petals falling. How sad. Well, let's just peek in here just in case there are people here trying to go about their lives. Now, unfortunately, this area experienced a famine toward the beginning of the 19th century, and a lot of people died. And so a lot of these shrines are like memorial shrines. Some, in fact, are memorials to Chizuru Kuniyasu, the guy I mentioned who brought sort of Echizen knives to Echizen, created the whole thing, and then back that way as a city. But then a lot of these are memorials to the dead, and are used to this day to sort of, you know, pray for famine never coming here again. Lots of rain-making shrines you'll find here. Yeah, and then here's the thing you can see written here, right? Echizen Guni. From back when this was the Echizen domain under the Matsudaira, which is something else I want to talk about today. But it's a lovely little side street. Yeah, I've been nearly killed on this side street multiple times. One was, I think I was with Nippon Culture Quest. Oh, first spider web to the face of the season. There it is. Ugh. It's with Nippon Culture Quest, and we were biking down here. I didn't know where we were going, and I turned a corner and was almost taken out right here, actually, around this corner by a driver who just sort of looked at me like, I don't know what you're doing here, but don't be a dumbass, kind of thing. Masangoya restaurant, tea house. Now, mention the Matsudaira. If you're familiar with particularly, most importantly, I would say, the period from 1450s to, well, till 1865 or so. Matsudaira name should have quite a bit of meaning. Now, most people, I think, are familiar with the name Tokugawa Ieyasu, who, you know, is often called the last great uniter of Japan, because he was, you know, along with his peers Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi was sort of on a quest to unite all the different regions, excuse me, all the different regions of the country under the banner of the shogun. And what's interesting about Tokugawa, who at the time, before becoming Tokugawa Ieyasu, was Matsudaira Motoyasu. You know, he claimed this descent from the Minamoto clan, which was very important in him being able to legitimately claim the title of shogun, as opposed to just being, what's it called? Anyway, other rulers, successful rulers, could claim basically like a title that was nearly synonymous with the title of shogun, but because they didn't have this descent from the right bloodline kind of thing, they could never really be shogun. And anyhow, so where am I going with this? So what ends up happening after Tokugawa, after Sekigahara, and basically things really fall into place, and under threat of violence to family members and everything, all the powerful clans are united under Tokugawa. This region is ruled by the Yuki Matsudaira, who a branch of the Matsudaira family, and by extension and relation a branch of the Tokugawa family, was started and ruled by a son of Tokugawa Ieyasu. I should get off this road, it's quite loud. Oh, it's a cute little toy shop, I have to stop here later. Models and stuff. Oh. And continuing my story here. And so as he searches for his lost narrative here. And so this area, as I say, used to be ruled by the Matsudaira. Same Matsudairas who I've talked about before were known to sacrifice blind women because they thought that would help them build castles and stop earthquakes, so that their castles would still be standing in certain areas. That's an interesting story I've told before, so I don't want to tell it again. But what ends up happening, is that if you've ever seen The Last Samurai, you know that when the US or the West, including France, sort of came to Japan, and it was like, yo, you're gonna modernize and you're gonna buy our guns and shit. That, you know, in some regards, like the Meiji Imperium was like kind of, you know, complicit. Under force or not, they were complicit. And in the movie The Last Samurai, you know, Watanabe Ken's character, what's his name? Katsumoto. Katsumoto is like the leader of this, you know, anti-Western, anti-modernization revolt. And such a thing did happen. It's called the Boshin War. It only lasted a year, I think, like 1868 to 1869. And while I can't say for sure how big of a role in that war the Yuki Matsudaira family branch played in how things turned out, of course, the resistance was defeated, and, you know, modernization carried on as it tends to, one way or another. But because of the way the Matsudaira clan handled it here, Fukui, the Fukui region, the Echizen domain, sort of wound up on the side of the victors, on the side of you know, people who believe that power should return to the empire. Oh, this is cute. Power should return to the empire, and you know, maybe modernization under his wishes should be allowed to continue. This is a beautiful shrine, isn't it? Not a shrine, a temple. So as I say, this area is just sort of really, really richly steeped in history. A lot of interesting things happen here, which of course can be the same. The same can be said for a lot of different places, but kimono no cleaning. I see. So I want to make sure. There's a lot of like different little historical things I wanted to talk about today because they fascinate me, and I wanted to share my love of these things with you guys a little bit. Now Takefu looks a lot more like, how can I say? To me it looks a lot more like Japan than like, say, Sabai or Fukui. Although there are parts that look Japanese, so to speak. If you know what I mean, like those pictures that when people think of Japan, they don't think of like Fukui's cement sort of blockiness. They think of these small side streets and these old houses and these really tightly forced together communities, neighborhoods. But yeah, I think that'll end the wait for it. It's finally like springtime here, as you can tell by the cherry blossoms. I think that's the same temple we saw earlier, just from the side. And here's this cemetery, which we're not going to film too much for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's now springtime here. The cherry blossoms are falling, and I spent Saturday night up on Asuwa Mountain in Fukui. After the sun had fallen, with one of the teachers from my school, and we were just drinking and eating, and so below you could see like the twinkling lights of Fukui City, and really I'd never seen it look so marvelous. Look at this walkway, beautiful, isn't it? And in front of us, sort of framing all of Fukui, were the cherry blossoms. And what an amazing time. No, I'm not one for, well, who am I kidding? I'm one for plenty of introspection and looking back on the past perhaps too much, but there's not really a spiritual aspect of it for me. But being up there with this guy who's quite a bit older than I am, and so has some very traditional ideas about ancestry and things like that, and hearing him talk about why it's important to go to this spot for him at least once per year during Sakura season. You know, it's moving, and it's moving to hear people talk about it, and it's nice to see people reflecting, because it's so important. But I don't want to get in that too much, because it's something we've talked about maybe ad nauseum over the last few one cuppas. But one thing I do want to talk about, as we're nearing the end of our strangely enjoyable cuppa here, is, well, this is the most famous excuse me, temple in Fukui, whose name escapes me at the moment. But I can't actually film too much of it, because just over there, connected to it, is a this is the Chizuru memorial, well, somewhat memorial linked temple. Memorially. Alright, look at the carving work. I can show you that at least. Yeah, look at the carving work. Beautiful and intricate. Amazing. Can you imagine how long somebody must have spent doing all this? At goat school. Hey goat, how you doing? But anyhow, we're definitely getting into danger zone with our camera here too, so yeah, the last thing I want to talk about before finishing up is VEDA. A completely different subject from the rest of this cuppa, obviously. Is this thing on still? Yes. What was I saying? VEDA. God, I have the memory of an old man. So I talked about it a little bit on Twitter, but you will notice that I have stopped doing VEDA, and I don't want to talk too much about it because we could talk about it to death, but the thing is, this is something I realized the last time I tried to do it, maybe 2 years ago. Was it that long ago? Jeez. Was that, and this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion. But looking around at what is made during VEDA, by and large, it's like, it makes me wonder, like, the point. You know, like there are certain topics, and I'm not gonna name any names or whatever, and whatever. Here's another ryokan, right next to this line of temples. Beautiful area here for one. And just the type of videos that are made and put out, it makes you wonder if there was a need for them to be made, right? And you know, generally, when you make a video, there should be some kind of reason or benefit or value to the video, right? And I feel like a lot of creators just made these trash videos that they put out just because they need to put out videos. And I'm not excluding myself from that evaluation because I think that the same holds true for me. So anyway, that's why I'm stopping VEDA, or I stopped 2 days ago, because I'm not content with just putting things out because I have to, and seeing like the shit quality of the videos come out and the lack of engagement, which probably means they're not all that interesting or valuable to you guys, and that should be the point of making videos. So anyway, so we're back to this shrine and seeing the cherry blossom petals fall. I will leave you if I finish saying this cuppa in just a second. I want to give you a cool Japanese vocabulary word which I learned very recently, which is really cool. Very seasonal. So when the cherry blossom petals fall, they don't just fall like one at a time kind of thing, or gradually is what I mean to say. They just sort of do so en masse. And so what ends up happening is when you see like a river or something, right, or one of like the irrigation ways that run through pretty much any place I've ever been here, I feel like what you'll find is that the surface of here's a little shopping street, that the surface of the water ends up being covered in what is almost this rigid just film of cherry blossom petals. And oh no. And I'll finish the story here and then I'll show you what I'm annoying at, but but yeah, it forms like this hard film on the surface and all the petals tend to move together. And my coworker told me that in Japan they call that hana ikada, which means a raft of flowers. So I thought it was kind of a beautiful, cool word, cool description. Oh, here's a neat little antique shop. I'm gonna stop in once I get rid of you guys. But look at these buildings here are beautiful, or were beautiful, but as you can see they burned down, and they were really sort of important old style like warehouses holding sake and other traditional goods and stuff like that. So this is really sad to see, and I wonder what happened. And I hope And I hope anybody that was involved in it is okay, but geez. Anyway, to end the cuppa on a good note, let's finish her off. And I thank you guys all very much for watching. Cheers.